Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Ryan, aka Lethal Llama, and today I want to talk to you about boss fights. In an age where most boss fights follow the formula of shoot the giant glowing weak point, or deplete its super large health pool, or jump on its head 3 times, it's refreshing to see newer takes on these kinds of battles. Great boss fights, especially final boss fights, offer up something unique that hasn't been seen in the game before. Not some kind of gimmicky new mode or fighting style, but a kind of something that will give the gamer a moment to remember for days, weeks, months, or even years after the fight's over. One of my favorite memories as a kid is watching my older brother battle against Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid. Once we figured out the secret to the fight, that we had to unplug our controller and plug it into the second port, the giddiness and bewilderment and excitement that followed is a thing that I will never forget. The magic of that moment was perfect. I'm not saying every boss fight needs to have an incredibly innovative Psycho Mantis moment, but when you play through a game, learn how the bosses are designed, and then suddenly come across one that breaks the rules, it surprises you in an amazing way. It keeps you on your toes. They broke one rule, they strayed from the pattern. So what other surprises are waiting for you? Today, I want to talk to you about one boss fight in particular that breaks the rules in the most delightful ways possible. And more than that, the game sets up this boss fight without the player even realizing it. The game is Undertale, which houses a plethora of extremely unique boss fights. Before I go any further, be warned, as there are heavy Undertale spoilers throughout this video. I'd highly recommend playing through the game first and coming back to watch this video. That being said, let's get to it. Like I was saying, there are so many awesome bosses in Undertale. From a boss fight turned dating simulator, to a disturbingly power-hungry flower, to an undying fish warrior. But there's one fight that I think stands high above the rest. Yes, it's Sans, the true final boss of the game and your most difficult adversary. I want to talk about how the game introduces Sans to the player for the first time, and the interactions that take place with him up until your epic duel. The incredibly well-designed setup of this fight is as important as the fight itself. So, let's walk through this journey. Our first moments with Sans are some genuinely scary ones. A twig suddenly snaps. A shadowy figure appears on your screen, but just for a moment. You stop as the figure slowly approaches. It speaks, and you're filled with a sense of foreboding and dread. You prepare for the worst when the illusion is shattered. A wacky theme song, goofy text noises, and a silly smile disarm you completely. You might laugh to yourself and think, as I did, that the game fooled you into thinking that this character was serious or dangerous, when in fact the game had done just the opposite. It fooled you into thinking that he wasn't. You see, for about 95% of the game, Sans is portrayed as a slacker, a joker, and a master of puns. He is constantly called lazy by his brother, Papyrus, and his lack of effort is shown in many ways, like the snow sculptures in his mailbox. But every so often we get the hint that there's something more to him, something darker that makes you feel uneasy. Maybe it's the fact that it almost seems like he can be in two places at once, or that after randomly acknowledging a hatred for humans, he puts on his big smile again like nothing ever happened. Or that he is the one that will judge you at the end of each of your playthroughs. These moments stuck out to me, as I'm sure they did to many of you who played the game. For those that don't know, in Undertale, you can either fight or give mercy to every enemy you face. Depending on what you choose, the story will change drastically. There are 3 main story paths you can take. One is called Neutral, which most players will achieve on their first playthrough, where you kill some enemies, but not all. Another is called Pacifist, where, among other things, you don't kill any enemies. The last is Genocide, where you kill every single enemy in the game. It's recommended that you complete these in the order I listed: Neutral, Pacifist, and then Genocide, for the best experience with the game. Playing through the game multiple times is a core part of the plot, and it also gives you a chance to learn more about the characters through unique interactions. There are some dialogue choices that you can make on your journey, and making different ones will yield different dialogue from different characters, including Sans. Although most are insignificant, they still show you more sides to the skeleton than one playthrough would allow. Not to mention that playing differently in terms of how many monsters you kill will make those around you act differently. But for the most part, if you follow the order I mentioned, on your first 2 playthroughs, Sans keeps up his goofy, carefree shtick, seldom letting his walls down or letting you see his true self. But that all changes during your Genocide run, when you as a gamer take on the role of the monster and villain of the Underground. If you kill every monster in the first area, Sans begins to see you for who you really are. Papyrus doesn't even see you as a human. and when Sans asks you to play along for the sake of his brother, you refuse, walking right through their carefully constructed traps. Sans gives you the benefit of the doubt, though, and keeps asking you to change the way you're playing the game, speaking almost to the player directly. And then you get one last warning. That is a moment I will not forget. The lovable slacker disappears in front of your eyes, leaving you stunned. If you do kill his brother, and continue on your path of destruction, you don't see Sans at his normal hangout spots. Not at his sentry station, not with his telescope, not at the hotel. Playing through the game at least twice before, his absence is an eerie reminder of his threat. As you kill and kill, you become stronger and stronger, taking down every enemy and boss in your way. You struggle past Undyne the Undying, and one-shot Mettaton EX. Your strength is unrivaled, and you feel unstoppable. As your time for judgment arrives once again, you greet Sans and expect the same old tired speech he's given you time and time again. But now, he is not satisfied with letting you pass by. He needs to stop you, and you need to stop him. Even though the player didn't know it at the time, the build-up to this fight had been culminating since the very first moment you met Sans. Your initial impression was much more accurate than you could have ever imagined. He delivers a chilling few opening lines. And then the reality hits you that whatever happens next is going to be intense. Everything I've said so far is only half the reason why this is quite possibly my favorite boss fight of all time. The anticipation and the journey and all of the unexpected moments finally pay off, when his first attack destroys you.
Should be burning in hell! Ah, balls! Ah!
That's just one YouTuber's reaction to the attack, but many are similar. I recall laughing to myself in disbelief, knowing that this was going to be a battle for the ages. I mentioned before about how it's fun when bosses break away from the patterns of previous fights and break the rules. This is the first of many rules that Sans breaks. He wonders why other monsters don't use their most powerful attacks first. It's said so casually, but it's true. No other fight in the game began with an all-powerful attack. They always warm you up and give you a fighting chance, but not Sans. After a few attempts, you learn how to survive the attack just barely, and you may think to yourself, aha, at least I can fight back now. No. Sans is also the first enemy to be able to dodge your attacks. Both of these broken rules are Sans breaking the fourth wall, pointing out how he transcends traditional video game logic. Only in video games does turn-based fighting and letting your opponent hurt you make any sense. He is also the first enemy to do damage over time, the first enemy that can damage you while you're picking your move, and the first enemy that can directly control where your heart moves. These all come as awesome surprises, even though these may lead to your death many, many times. Eventually, if you survive long enough, Sans tells you that his special attack will happen in a few turns. When I saw this, I was excited. The fight's almost over. But I was terrified at what the attack might be, considering how insane his opening attack was. A few turns later, and you only have to survive one more attack until you're faced with his special, and he does this. When I finally survived this, my heart was pounding. I had 1 health left, and Sans was smashing my heart all across the box. And I still had to survive his actual special attack, which turned out to be him breaking another rule. Sans decides to not finish his turn. He knows that if it's never the player's turn, they can never attack him. He falls asleep, and a stalemate is born. But in a fun twist, now it's time for the player to break the rules. After some moving around, you realize that you can manipulate your box for the first time. You find out that attack is your only option. You miss once again, but then you break the rules one last time, and attack twice in the same turn. I went through an emotional roller coaster in the span of about 5 seconds. Excited to land the final blow. Surprised when I missed, even more surprised when I attacked again, and then kind of sad. Sans is a good guy. The player is a villain. You can't help but feel bad for the guy, who gave his all to stop the destruction you were causing, to stop the monster who killed his brother. This is a boss fight that I will never forget. One that took me 3 nights to beat. One that managed to exceed every expectation and surprised me at every turn. A fight that granted me the feeling of great accomplishment and sorrow at the same time. You realize more and more every second that the relaxed, lovable Sans you befriended in your earlier playthroughs is actually a being of great power. Not only does he break the rules established in your hours of playtime, but so too do you. The relationship you've built with him, and your journey up until you land the final blow, is what makes this boss fight one of the best of all time. And that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments which boss fight stood out to you. Once again, my name is Ryan, aka Lethal Llama, and I'll see you next time.